Is it true that our mother Aisha broke her pledge of allegiance to Ali and went out to fight him, which was better for Aisha to return, contradicting the Prophet's words and invalidating his prophethood, or for Aisha to be presented, remaining in error and thus proving the Prophet's prophethood? Since you killed Uthman, let's go, companions, and eliminate them all, killing them and be done with it. Now, no authority can confront a rebellious popular mass in the moment of its rebellion, even if the difference in power is significant. We had two major problems: the problem of the caliphate and the problem of jurisdiction over who killed Uthman. Ultimately, the unity of the Islamic State and the unity of the Muslims are more important than the issue of seeking retribution for one person. I don't know why, for example, Ali didn't write a secret message to Muawiyah saying, "Go out with your army, and we will work from within to eliminate these criminals so that the state can be stabilized." We must believe that these companions were the most intelligent and wisest of people. The problem is that we get so engrossed in the matter that we want to solve the problem even though it's already over. I mean, imagine the fitna civil strife. None of this happened. This undermines the prophethood. What happened actually proves the prophethood. Glory be to God, glory be to you, O Lord. Music, peace be upon you, my brothers, wherever you are. Welcome again to this blessed and good series, 100 Questions in History, through which we answer the pressing questions that have emerged and surfaced, meaning they came from here and there to cast doubt on our great and vast Islamic history. But we are ready for them, and for them we will be on the lookout for them, with God's help, in this blessed and good series. Where are we? We're in episode 20, and we've reached question 38. This is the 38th question in this blessed series. We're on the topic of the Caliphate, which is the fourth topic in this series. I'd like to remind those who were with us before, so that those who have joined recently understand that this series consists of 10 topics. In each topic, we ask 10 questions, totaling 100 questions on history, which is the name of the program. We always welcome Professor Muhammad Al-Harmi. May God bless you, guardian of this blessed series. We've reached question 38, and I wish the strife had ended and stopped with the killing of our master Uthman. Professor Muhammad question asks, we want a summary of the story of the strife. Of course, in short, as you've accustomed us, relying on trustworthy sources, a story of the strife during the time of our master Ali. Professor Muhammad, you know there were many questions about it, dozens upon dozens upon dozens of questions. It's endless. But one of the most important is that some people might ask, for example, what happened during the time of our master Ali? So, how is it that our master Ali found it difficult to avenge the killing of Uthman, yet found it easy to confront two large armies, for example? Some people also ask, is it true that our mother Aisha broke her pledge of allegiance to Ali and went out to fight him at the Battle of the Camel? Is this true or not? And of course, questions arise and doubts begin to surface, and attacks are launched against the symbols of this nation and the noble companions in a very disturbing way. Another question that comes to mind, and which we might answer at the end of this discussion, is why did our master Ali move the capital to Kufr? Why didn't he keep it in Medina? And why Kufr? Why Kufr, which was already a place full of rebellions and conflicts? You know, since the early days of Islam, since the beginning of the Prophet's mission, peace and blessings be upon him. And look at the history of the Arabs. Kufr has a special case. It needs a series of episodes to analyze it. Yes, it's a story. What is the fitna strife? The fitna in the time of Ali. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Praise be to God, and peace and blessings be upon the messenger of God, his family, his companions, and those who follow him. Well, Abu al-Harith, of course, you have asked about something important. Sir, I would like to mention a few simple things. We said, my friends, that fitna was something necessary to occur in the generation of the companions so that the and armed disputes, and it was necessary that the teachers of Muslims in this matter be the companions. Therefore, the companions acted because they were the most knowledgeable people in Islam. Therefore, there are prophetic texts about fitna, and therefore, political jurisprudence is based on the policies of the rightly guided caliphs. That's number one. Number two, it is beneficial for the non-specialist Muslim, or the legal position, to refrain from discussing what transpired between the companions. Why should we refrain from discussing what transpired between the companions? Because this is a highly specialized and complex topic, just as in any other field. No one discusses heart disease over coffee. No one discusses building a nuclear reactor over coffee. He discusses the composition of biological weapons over coffee. It is very normal for there to remain specialized matters that only specialists understand. In the matter of the companions, well-being in religion means that all a Muslim asks for is that there be no unease in his heart. Look, God Almighty divided the believers into three categories: muhajirin immigrants, Ansar helpers, and people whose hearts are sound towards the muhajirin and Ansar. He said to the poor muhajirin who were expelled from their homes and their possessions, seeking bounty from God and His pleasure and supporting God and His messenger, those are the truthful ones. These are the muhajirin and those who had settled in the city and embraced the faith before them. They love those who emigrated to them and do not find in their hearts any need for what they have been given and give preference to others over themselves, even though they are in dire need. And whoever is protected from the stinginess of his soul, it is those who will be the successful. Who are these? The Ansar and those who came after them say, Our Lord, forgive us and our brothers who preceded us in faith, and do not place in our hearts any resentment toward those who have believed. Our Lord, indeed you are kind and merciful. They are the believers. O God, make us among them. Yes, whoever has resentment in his heart, whoever has hatred in his heart, whoever has animosity in his heart toward the companions, this is the least of his conditions. He is misguided and an innovator, and he may even become an unbeliever. O God, complete. Therefore, there is no well-being in religion that equals any well-being. Yes, that's it. Yes, the fitna tribulation we are discussing now is because of the many doubts that have arisen concerning it, and this is one of the legitimate objectives in discussing it. Therefore, be extremely careful not to be presumptuous toward the companions of the Messenger of God, whatever the situation. Young people, of course, whoever has recently joined us should go back to the previous episode and the one before it, because at the beginning we talked a lot of important things about this topic. Please, it is very important. May God bless you. Well, we said that the fitna had three stages. The stage of rebellion against Uthman. This is the stage in which the truth was with Uthman, and those who rebelled against him were hypocrites, according to the Prophet's statement. If the hypocrites intend to harm you on his removal, do not remove him. The third stage is the stage of our Master Ali. The Kharijites rebelled against him, and the truth in this was with our Master Ali. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, mentioned about these people that they would depart from the religion as an arrow departs from its target, meaning they would escape from the religion. This refers to the strife that occurred among the companions. The second stage was between our Master Ali and then between Lady Aisha and Talha and Zubair, or between our Master Ali and our Master Muawiyah. The one closest to the truth in this stage was our Master Ali. May God be pleased with him, according to the prophetic texts. So, this is a general overview. We have discussed the issue of our Master Uthman. Now, let's come to the topic of our Master Ali. I will try to be very brief and explain what I want people to understand very simply, and I ask God for ease and success. Look, my master, may God make it easy. Now, our master Ali, may God be pleased with him, was the candidate for the caliphate after our master Uthman. How do we know this? We know it from more than one thing, including that when our master Umar died, he nominated 6 for the caliphate. Who? 6 countries? Our master Ali, our master Uthman, our master Ali, our master Talha, our master al-Qays expected that this strife would end with the killing of Uthman. Many of the companions didn't expect this. Killing the caliph is a huge event, by the way. So he went to Talha and al-Zubair and said to him, I see this man killed. Who do you advise me to choose after him? He said, Ali. He went to al-Zubair, who said, Ali. Then he went to Mecca. The mother of the believers, Aisha, was performing Umrah in Mecca, and when he asked her, she said, Ali. She said, Ali. So, no one after Uthman was more deserving of the caliphate than Ali. Many things indicate this, including the Prophet's hadith, the caliphate will be after him. For 30 years, you must follow my sunnah and the sunnah of the rightly guided caliphs after me, according to the consensus of the companions, because in the days of our master Ali, no one challenged his pledge of allegiance at all. No one challenged our master Ali's pledge of allegiance at all. All the disagreements that occurred were over policies and procedures, not over his pledge of allegiance. Our master Ali was a man deeply rooted in Islam. He was raised in the Prophet's household. May God bless him and grant him peace. He was the first of the boys to embrace Islam. He had remarkable stances, a leader in knowledge and a leader in war. Our master Ali led battles. You will find him in the Battle of Badr, one of the duelists. You will find him in the Battle of the Trench. You will find him in the conquest of Khaybar, where God granted victory through him. The Prophet said of him, a man who loves God and his messenger, and whom God and his messenger love. Yes, he witnessed the battles. He witnessed the battles. Even when the Prophet left him in Tabuk, he said, O messenger of God, you have left me with the boys. He said, are you not pleased to be to me as Aaron was to Moses? And the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, said, whoever I am, his master, then Ali is his master. And he said, none but a believer loves you, and none but a hypocrite hates you. Look, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal said it is narrated about one of the Prophet's companions that more hadiths have been narrated about Ali, our master Ali. The most hadiths about his virtues have been narrated. O God, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said, no one's virtues have been narrated with such sound chains of transmission as those narrated about Ali. So why Imam Ibn Hajar? He said, because people disagreed about him during his time. There was a need to transmit this, so the chains of transmission and hadiths about Ali's virtues became numerous. This is because his time was turbulent. Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman didn't need to circulate hadiths about their virtues, and there weren't many. But they became very numerous during Ali's time because of the disagreements that occurred. Well, this might be useful to us in a way that we might come to later when we talk about deviant sects. Because, Sheikh Murad, this is the only situation, as far as I know, where knowledge defeats power. It's the only situation in human history, as far as I know, where power wants something. So the Umayyads triumph and establish a state, and then what? The Abbasids triumphed and established a state, while the Alawites remained in opposition within the Umayyad state, persecuted, and in opposition within the Abbasid state, persecuted. The scientific foundation remains superior to that of Muawiyah and to Abbas, meaning that power could not defeat knowledge, but rather the scientific state. God willing, we may come to this point and elaborate further, but this is evidence of the purity of our history and religion, and that it was not written by power nor influenced by power, because if power had written it, the hadiths would have been about who had more hadiths, Muawiyah or Ali? Is it Muawiyah or Abrs, al-Abrs? But look at Ali, who, according to material logic, was defeated, and the Alawites, who, according to material logic, were oppressed, remain better in the conscience of Muslims than Muawiyah and the two Abbasids who triumphed and established a state that lasted for hundreds of years. Well, therefore, it is necessary, when we read about the era of sedition in the time of Ali, that we remember very well who Ali was, because if we do not have the hadiths, if we if we set Islam aside and talk about history as if we are Orientalists, as if we are not Muslims, it may seem that our master Ali led a successful coup against Uthman. Yes, whoever does not know speak against Ali and the noble companions. Yes, and that's why people were divided into two or three groups regarding Ali. One group, the Shia, who exaggerated his virtues; another group, the Nazabis, who slandered him; and the group that was just in their judgment, the Sunnis. The book Al-Fitna, the Fitna, which I was presenting to you, I showed to a number of scholars who praised it, and I am still showing it to them. But I received a comment from Sheikh Abul Hay Yusuf, may God preserve him, who said that the abundance of hadiths praising Ali among the Sunnis indicates the soundness of the Sunni methodology. They are not afraid or sensitive about the abundance of hadiths praising Ali, but the reality is that the sheer tyranny that occurred after the Syrian Revolution, and in Yemen and Lebanon, this crisis that happened in Syria produced, revived, and resurrected a sect that had become extinct and ended, which is the Nazabi sect. So now, unfortunately, it has reappeared, and those who slander him have emerged again. I saw this myself, and I saw many people cursing him, Ali, and whoever diminishes Ali's status, and whoever does not insult Ali but lowers his status, meaning he attacks him and slanders and backbites him, then it must be known, good people, our master Ali is the fourth man in Islam, the fourth man in Islam. Okay, and here this will be the teacher of the nation in the tribulations. Let's talk briefly about what happened. What happened is that we said that these rebels of religion who followed Uthman had the idea spread among some of them that Ali is the legitimate caliph from whom the caliphate was usurped by Abu Bakr, Umar, and Uthman. So some of them wanted Ali, especially the people who were around Abdullah bin Sabr, especially the people who were in Egypt. Yes, and this is the idea that came out with Abdullah bin Sabr, and this is the idea that came out with Abdullah bin Sabr, his project. So okay, so now it is natural that when they killed Uthman, who did they want? They wanted Ali. This is the natural thing. Okay, far from Abdullah bin Sabr and the ideas of Abdullah bin Sabr, and what if there was no Uthman? Who would the companions and the followers have brought? Ali will bring Ali, may God be pleased with him. So, Ali here became the subject of something like consensus. The companions, the people of authority and influence in Medina, pledged allegiance to him. True, but this scene was marred, distorted, and confused by the fact that those who led this operation were who? The Kharijites. The Kharijites who rebelled against Uthman and killed him. This is where the first disagreements begin. This moment is a pivotal moment in the conflict, a moment of strife. Firstly, we have three positions. When we say fitna strife, we must understand that it is ambiguous. I ask God for success in trying to simplify things now. Our master, Ali the First, refused to pledge allegiance and said, by God, it was said that Uthman was killed, and my mind went blank. People came to me to pledge allegiance, and I said, I am ashamed to pledge allegiance to people who killed a man to whom the messenger of God said, should I not be ashamed of one from whom even the angels are ashamed? And I am ashamed to pledge allegiance while Uthman is dead and has not yet been buried. So they left, buried him, and returned to him. Okay, here there are three positions. The first position is that of our master Ali, who said, O people, Uthman is dead, Uthman was killed, but the nation must have a caliph, just as the messenger, who was better than Uthman, died, and the companions hastened to choose a caliph. That is, the system of the nation is more important than any individual, even if it was Uthman, even if he was a caliph. The companions rushed to choose a caliph, and the Prophet had not yet been buried. Yes, this is Ali's logic, that there must be a caliph. There is another logic, which was the logic of our master Abdullah bin Abbas and Al-Hasan bin Ali, his cousin and son. They said, no, it is true, Ali is the one worthy of the caliphate. But if Ali were to assume it now, he would be burdened with something he cannot handle. First thing the ruler would do is whoever takes over at this moment will be told to take retribution for the killing of Uthman. And this is something that Ali cannot do now. So they saw delaying Ali's response. Not of this responsibility. I mean, it is true that there will be some chaos, but when Ali comes to take over this chaos, it will be a matter of consensus. No one will burden him with something that he cannot do. This was the advice of Al-Hasan, and whose advice was it? Abdullah bin Abbas. The third logic we've already discussed two logics. The third logic is that Ali should take over and begin seeking retribution for the killing of Uthman. This is the logic advocated by Talha, Zubair, Aisha, Muawiyah, Amr ibn al-As, and others. So, this is the logic of the companions. When the people of the sedition came wanting to pledge allegiance to Ali, Ali went to the mosque to avoid being the one who pledged allegiance and pointed him. He said, "My pledge of allegiance will not be done secretly, nor in the house, but I will go out to the mosque." So, he went out to the mosque, and the public pledge of allegiance was given by the majority of the companions and the followers, along with the people of the sedition. I want to tell you that this scene was marred by confusion, distortion, and turmoil due to the presence of these people of the sedition. Now, this is a very pivotal and central point in understanding what happened. Of course, now, the one sitting in Syria, yes, I'm still telling you that there was another group sitting there, seething, yes, the one sitting far from Medina, or the one who he hears the story. How he interprets the scene. He interprets it as a group of rebels reaching the caliph, killing him, and installing their chosen successor. So, we're facing a complete coup. They killed the one they didn't want and installed the one they wanted. So, what do we understand? We understand it's a coup. There's no coup, and it must be over. Therefore, the majority of the companions and the followers pledged allegiance to Ali. Okay, the people outside of Syria, Muawiyah, didn't pledge allegiance, and the rest of the regions in Yemen, Basra, Kufr, Mecca, and Egypt, and divisions occurred. Divisions occurred in these places. Okay, we have a confusing scene within this confusing scene. Talha and Zubair. Did they pledge allegiance or not? Okay, Talha and Zubair, being two of the most prominent companions, did they pledge allegiance or not? Here's the problem. Here, there are narrations with both meanings. Some say they pledged allegiance, others say they didn't. I mean, some narrations say they pledged allegiance willingly, while others say they were forced to pledge allegiance. They were offered the sword and they pledged allegiance by force. Okay, so which of the narrations is more accurate? Yes, scholars differ on this too. My preference is that they pledged allegiance by force and did not pledge allegiance willingly, but this forced pledge was not seen by Ali. Of course, the details of this topic cannot be said in the media because it requires writing, detail, and reference to the phrases of the narrations. I mean, why by force? I mean, they were brought by force, but this forced pledge was not seen by Ali. I mean, were they willingly pledging allegiance? Or were they brought by force from the Kharijites, from the houses, not from the companions, no, from the Kharijites? The sentence is very important. Yes, so why were they brought by force? because the Kharijites, and you should pay attention, I want you to live a life I mean the rebellious, insurgent, Kharijite. Of course, the word rebel and revolution in our Islamic history are neutral words. They're neither right nor wrong. So, when you revolt for what is right, they say you revolted, and when you revolt against what is wrong, they also say you revolted. When I'm talking about Islamic history and I say the word rebel, it doesn't mean that he's right or that he's wrong. No, it's a neutral word. For example, when I say Kharijites, it has a negative connotation. When I say standing up for what is right, it has a positive connotation. But the word rebel in our Islamic history, in our ancient Arab heritage, doesn't have a positive connotation. So, understand this now. These people staged a revolution. They rebelled, they made a reprehensible and wrongful act, and they peoples happens they remain united, afraid that what they've achieved will slip from their grasp. So, now they've united because of two things. Firstly, Muawiyah's army, which is coming from Syria, yes, and secondly, the companions who were angry about the killing of Uthman, who, if they were to be attacked, would take revenge on them. So there was a gathering of these rebellious Kharijites in the city, and during the siege and the period of chaos, what happens among people naturally also happened. That people came to the capital because the stipends began to be cut off and the resources began to be cut off, or there began to be chaos, and you know that chaos brings people together. So there was a gathering inside the city of a group who were outside, meaning they were Kharijites, and the Bedouins were established with them. So there was chaos in the city and these people gathered there. So what was the second goal of these people who gathered after the killing of Uthman? Their goal is to install a man who isn't one of them. So it wouldn't work, for example, if the one installed afterward were from the Umayyad clan, or even if Ali were installed, and even if Ali's opinion was in favor of retribution, they would still have to remain united, even with Ali. They were still afraid of Ali when he took power, so they remained united, not going back to their homes, not returning to their places, so that they wouldn't be punished. And it wouldn't work if Ali's rule wasn't firmly established, meaning he couldn't have a rival who hadn't pledged allegiance. That's why they went and brought Talha and Zubair by force. They had to solidify the new situation so that he wouldn't turn against them. What they wanted was, okay, Professor Muhammad, there are important things. Take your time, take your time. Yes, because I, like a viewer, can't stay silent. There are things I have to ask about. Ask me whatever you want. Who is running the whole scene now? It's the Kharijites who emerged. The organized mind they considered the organized mind. Okay, there are two very important questions. What did we say earlier? We said that what did Muawiyah understand from the whole situation? That this was an organized coup. They killed whomever they wanted and installed whomever they wanted. The question now is, when Abu Bakr took over, and Umar took over, and Uthman took over, was it customary to send a letter of allegiance after the caliph was installed or before? No, after the wisdom of Abdullah bin Abbas and the noble companions, people like that, they advised Ali on this very important matter. Didn't it occur to them that they should also send a letter to Muawiyah, consult him, or summon him so that we could also consult him, so that there wouldn't be strife, because the man might understand that there had been a coup? I mean, didn't a story like this occur to them? Look, sir, look, that's an excellent question. Okay, there's another question because I forgot it. I got carried away with the second thing. Okay, so he killed Uthman, or were all the companions sitting there? Since he killed Uthman, let's get up, companions, and finish them all off. Let's get up and be done with it. Okay, the first question, we must understand that back then there was no transportation or fast communication, so the election process took place in the capital, which was the home of the people of authority. Okay, So when our master Abu Bakr nominated our master Umar, and our master Umar was given the oath of allegiance, did he bring Khalid bin al-Walid or Abu Ubaidah bin al-Jarrah, or the people who were fighting in Persia or in Rome? The election process is decided by the people of the capital, because there is no distance for us to wait for the book to go and the book to come, and it is natural for the governors and districts to submit to what the people of authority and influence in the capital have decided, because they are the public and the mass of the people and their leaders. So this is what happened with Abu Bakr, this is what happened with Umar, this is what happened with Uthman, and this is also what happened with Ali, that as long as the Muhajirin and Ansar pledged allegiance, the rest must listen and obey. Okay. So this is the first question. The second question is, what is it? It is, why didn't the companions rise up to kill these Kharijites? Good, now we said that there were two opinions. The opinion is that we have now pledged allegiance to a man, so we must listen and obey. We pledge allegiance to our leader.
تمام؟ طيب لذلك أنا قُلت لك في مواقف 3. أولى، موقف علي يقبل البيعة دلوقتي ويتحمل هذه المسؤولية
allegiance,
والّا
and
أنا
he
يقبل
told us,
البيعة
let's
وأتحمل
go kill
مسؤولية
them and let it be a massacre. We said, no, the matter still needs to be arranged. So what do? We listen and obey the caliph to whom we pledged allegiance. Yes, okay. So, I told you there were three situations. The first situation was Arli's: should he accept the pledge of allegiance now and bear this responsibility? Or should he not accept the pledge and leave the responsibility to no one until they come to him willingly? Or should he pledge allegiance to him now and force him to carry out the punishment? That's what happened. Okay, good. Now, when our master Ali first took over, he was a man of great wisdom and intelligence. He tells you that no authority can confront a rebellious popular mass at the moment of its rebellion, even if the difference in power is great. For example, what happened in the Syrian Revolution after 10 years? What happened? They are still the same. The difference in power, and even with the use of force, ultimately led to the revolutionaries' victory. Therefore, there's a principle among security groups, and the British and Americans are masters of it, who say that revolutions shouldn't be confronted, but rather ridden or absorbed. That's why, even in the Arab Spring, you see how political strategists absorbed the revolution, how they emptied it, how they calmed it off the streets. Because when we engage in direct confrontation, the costs are enormous and the massacres are immense. So, from the very first moment, our master Ali found himself facing a united front in the city, a group of people who had coalesced. The only solution was to reassure them, calm them down, and get them to return to their homes. Then, we could address the issue of retribution calmly. So, this united front, our master Ali then adopted a policy of reassuring this rebellious group. He reassured them by postponing retribution against the killers of Uthman. Moreover, to further reassure them, he began to employ some of them as his men in the army and in the provinces. Yes, indeed. And he tried to dismantle their rebellion. Their gathering in Medina meant that we would say, you are absolved of responsibility, O you Bedouins. Return to your water sources, meaning, go back and leave Medina. We would say, I absolve any slave who remains after 3 days and does not return to his master. He was trying to break up this, but we had a group of companions, led by Talha and Zubair, who were seething with anger and waiting to avenge the killing of Uthman. We had Muawiyah in Syria, refusing to pledge allegiance, and we had Aisha in Mecca, who was openly expressing her anger. All the companions were, of course, angry. But now these groups of power saw that if they broke up, they would be captured and punished. Therefore, they remained gathered in Medina to solidify the new situation and maintain their position. Our master Ali's approach of appeasement, containment, and reassurance was something Talha and Zubair could not tolerate. Our master Ali saw hatred in their faces for the presence of these groups in Medina, and they advised him to go on Umrah. They couldn't stay in the city with the faces of the troublemakers, so permission was granted for them to perform Umrah on the condition that they don't cause any trouble. In other words, don't make any problems. Our master Ali was afraid when our master Abdullah ibn Umar was going to perform Umrah. He feared he might be going from Medina to Damascus to the Umayyads, who were beginning to break free and flee to Damascus. But then our master Ali learned that he wasn't going for Umrah. Abdullah ibn Umar's Umrah proved beneficial to him in that he prevented his sister Hafsa, the mother of the believers, from going out with Aisha. Because what would happen now? Talha and Zubair would go to perform Umrah and find Aisha also in a state of anger, and the governor of Yemen, a man named Yalar ibn Umayr, who was close to Uthman and was a wealthy man, would come, and this conversation would take place between them. Now Ali ibn Abi Talib had assumed the caliphate, and we troublemakers, so it seems that Ali was powerless against this group and didn't want a war to break out that would be unjustly declared. The city was full of these people causing strife. So what idea did they come up with? They decided to go to Basra, a city known for its supporters of Uthman, may God be pleased with him. It's true that some Kharijites came from there, but most were supporters. As we said, Abdullah ibn Amir ibn Qurayz, who was demanding retribution, was there. Then Yalar ibn Umayr came with money. So now we have the idea that they should go to Basra to rally Uthman's supporters to help Ali eliminate the people causing strife. That's why all of Aisha's words, all of Talha's words, all of Zubair's words, what brought you out? Reconciliation between the people. Now Muawiyah is refusing to pledge allegiance in Syria unless he gets justice for the killing of Uthman. Ali is unable to do it. People, if we bring an army, if we bring Uthman's supporters, we can get rid of these people causing strife, and the Muslims will be united again. That's the meaning of reconciliation between the people. So they went to Basra with the funding that was available to them. Up to this point, there are some beautiful sayings attributed to our master Ali, may God be pleased with him. He used to say, I have been afflicted with the most obedient of people, Aisha, meaning Aisha, the mother of the believers, the beloved of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, the jurist of women. She is the one who says, the people say, welcome, like, I mean, what I want to say I do, and want to give contemporary examples, even though they bring the scene closer. But you should pay attention. A caliph, or rather, the beloved leader, the founder of the state, his wife and beloved, is involved in a political matter. What do you think? How would people's support for her be? Very, very high. Yes, very high. Okay, and I have been afflicted with the most obedient of people, Aisha, and I have been afflicted with the most severe of people, Zubair, and I have been afflicted with the most cunning of people, Talha, and the most influential of people, Ali ibn Umayr. Okay, they went to Basra. They went to Basra to gather an army to fight the killers of Uthman. Some of these killers and some of these instigators of sedition were indeed in Basra. Uthman's governor of Basra and Ali's governor of Basra, I mean Uthman ibn Hanif, withdrew, hesitant to fight an army that included Aisha, Talha, and Zubair. So they entered Basra peacefully, and there some of the instigators of sedition confronted them. Their leader was Hakim bin Jablar, whom we mentioned earlier, and he was the center of the first force. He confronted them with 600 men, and his army was killed and defeated. Only one man named Harks bin Zuhair al-Sardi escaped from them. Okay, now let's leave the scene in Basra like this and come back to Medina. Yes, how does Ali view the matter? Ali sees that he is now going to settle things and to reassure people and therefore it was Ali's policy to dismiss Uthman's governors from the provinces, and he sent to Muawiyah the dismissal, and Muawiyah did not agree. Okay, here when the situation got out of hand, instead of it being that a group or faction killed Uthman and they would disperse in the country, an army was formed and got out of hand and had a battle in which about 600 people were killed and one man escaped from them, who was Harks bin Zuhair al-Sardi. So his people, Banu Sard, rallied to him and gathered 6,000 men for him. The matter became bitter. Okay, if we leave it like this, what will happen? Another battle will erupt between Ashur, Talhar, and Zubair and the Banu Sard. God knows how many will die in it. Soon, others will see themselves demanding the killing of Uthman, and they will move towards Kufr or Egypt. Thus, matters will have completely spiraled out of control. Ali, may God be pleased with him, resolved to march with his army to stop this situation unfolding in Iraq, specifically in Basra. As he marched, two important events occurred. First, Al-Hassan advised against marching, saying, "Your march will lead to the shedding of Muslim blood. If you march with an army, war will break out. The situation is already out of control." Ali's army included Uthman's killers, his zealots, and therefore, what made Ali rely on Uthman's killers? Many companions were reluctant to fight alongside him, either because they feared he would be fighting Muslims, or because their own comrades in the army had killed Uthman. This reluctance, coupled with Ali's need for them to impose order and the reluctance of some companions, made matters even more ambiguous and reinforced his suspicions. Four noble companions, also from the side of the text, meaning that you relied on them and included them in your army. What does that mean when you look at the side of Muawiyah or the side of Talhar, Zubair, and Ashur? I'm telling you, if you've forgotten who Ali was and the texts about Ali, it will seem to you that Ali led a successful coup against Uthman, and now he could kill Uthman. May God be pleased with him. If you've forgotten, well, I have a question. No, wait a moment. The second situation is Abdullah bin Salam when he tells him, "Do not go to Iraq and do not leave the pulpit of the Messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, for I fear for you the sword's edge," meaning, I fear that you will be killed in Iraq. Ali said, "The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told me that." So Ali knew that he would be killed in Iraq. Can you imagine? Oh God. So I'm telling you, there is a text, and the text expresses God's decree, but human thinking about interests. How do people implement the decree with their minds and their efforts, and how is the text fulfilled in them? Glory be to God, and it is one of the signs of prophethood. I mean, I want to tell you, suppose the whole sedition didn't happen. So this is an attack on the prophethood. Okay, if it didn't happen, it proves the prophethood. Glory be to you, O God. And some rebels were going to kill Abdullah bin Salam, so he said, "Leave Abdullah bin Salam alone, for he is one of us, a righteous man." Okay, but when Al-Hassan said to him, "Why don't you go out, for there will be bloodshed in that?" he said, "I will not be like the lizard in its burrow, waiting to hear the bloodshed." What does this mean? This is the viewpoint of our master Ali. He said to him, "If I stay in Medina, I will be like the lizard in its burrow. When the lizard enters its burrow, the Arabs come to trap it. They strike it, and when they strike it, the lizard senses that there is something that can be hunted. Yes, so it comes out and is hunted instead of hunting. Yes, so he is saying, if I stay in Medina, this world will descend into chaos, and those in Medina will come to take revenge on the bloodshed of Uthman. I will not be like the lizard, waiting to hear the bloodshed, and then the situation will be weaker. So now it is necessary to control this chaos. if it happens and then I go to Ashur, Talar, and Zubair, none of us are thinking of fighting each other. Neither Ashur nor Talar nor Zubair pledged allegiance to anyone, nor did they question Ali's pledge, nor did they give water to him, nor did they renew it. That is, they did not appoint an imam, nor did any of them claim to be an imam. So in the end, the reckoning is that we are going. I will talk to my brothers with whom we disagree, but first, before I continue, yes, what I wanted to ask you about is that even at that moment in the story, we have our mother Ashur, may God be pleased with her, and Zubair and Talhar, may God be pleased with them, and Muawiyah, may God be pleased with him. We had two major problems of the problem of the caliphate, meaning we have a problem, Ali, we have a problem with you regarding the issue of the caliphate, and we have the problem of the caliphate who kill Uthman. The problem of the caliphate, is it over? You are our caliph and our affairs are fine. No, it is a problem, and we want the caliphate to be determined, and both are still pending. No, look, Ali is worthy of the caliphate. This is a matter of consensus, even with our mother. Ashur, al-Zubair, Talar, and everyone else agrees. We'll clarify this to conclude that he is worthy of the caliphate. Okay, he has now assumed the caliphate. We acknowledge his caliphate. Ashur, Talar, and al-Zubair agree. Yes, Muawiyah does not, unless he exacts retribution or hands over the killers of Uthman. His worthiness of the caliphate is present, but the pledge of allegiance is not. This is only for Muawiyah, from Muawiyah, but the others acknowledge Ali's Talhar, al-Zubair, Ashur. He said, "O mother, what brought you out?" She said, "O my son, nothing brought me out except reconciliation between people." He said, "So tell me." Talhar and Zubair came and said, "Yes, the same thing." Are they in agreement and following or disagreeing? He said, "Rather, they are in agreement and following. We only came out to reconcile between people. Tell me about this reconciliation. What is this reconciliation?" They said, "You killed Uthman, so if he leaves the retribution from them, it will be leaving the Quran." He said, "Pay attention to what he said. They all want to establish justice." Then Al-Kakar ibn Amr said to them, "Well, you went out to Basra and fought those who rebelled against you, and you killed 600 men of them, and one man, Harks ibn Zuhair al-Sadi, escaped, and 6,000 men rallied to his cause. So if you had left him alone and not killed him, you would have left what you are holding against Ali. Here is one of Uthman's people. Here you are, not you. And if you had killed him, we would have fallen into more bloodshed and more chaos than what was before." Yes, yes, wise words, wise words. So Ashur said to him, "So what do you say? This is a matter whose cure is calming down. We calm down, we don't do anything. And if he calms down, this is a word." He said, "Then they were in a state of flux when things calmed down." They were in a state of flux, meaning the accused were taken calmly and simply and presented to the judiciary, presented to the caliph. Okay, we agreed, we reconciled, and the people slept peacefully that night. So, the army of Ali that was coming and the army of Talhar, al-Zubair, and Ashur agreed to peace. What happened here? The people of the sedition spent the night in a state of evil. If these two armies agree, who will suffer in it? The people of sedition. Yes. So some of them infiltrated each other. Of course, now you should be aware that both sides are Muslims and the tribes are divided and people were going to each other and infiltrating each other. This is an easy matter. A man came to al-Zubair and said to him, "Kill Ali for you." He said, "How? How can you kill him when he has the army with him?" He said, "Go in with him so I can be with him, then assassinate him." Al-Zubair said, "Faith forbids assassination." Al-Zubair refused, but the point here is that you don't know clearly who is with whom. So the people slept peacefully that night, and The tribes entered each other's territory. These instigators of sedition infiltrated the two sides and killed in Ali's army, saying, Talha, Zubair, and Aisha betrayed us. They also killed in Talha's army, saying, Ali betrayed us. So the people became agitated and lined up for battle. And here the battle of the camel began. Yes, here the battle of the camel began. Of course, it was a huge battle, a battle with a crisis. I mean, the crisis, the sedition, was huge. As soon as Zubair ibn al-Awwam saw the two sides fighting, he withdrew. While he was withdrawing, a man named Ibn Jarmaz caught up with him and killed him with an arrow. He came to Ali and said, I killed Zubair. Our master Ali should have been happy, not upset. Ali, may God be pleased with him, said, I heard the messenger of God, peace and blessings be upon him, say, give the killer of Ibn Safir the glad tidings of hellfire. O God, peace and blessings be upon you. Look also at how the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, informed us about all these events. For example, Talha ibn Ubaydullah, may God be pleased with him, was told by one of the Tabi'in followers of the companions, O Abu Muhammad, I see you, and the gatherings you love most are the most secluded. You are sitting with your beard. On your chest. If there is something in this matter that you dislike, then leave it, for no one is forcing you into it. Meaning, leave this battle as long as you are upset, tired, and always depressed. He said, I have already done something regarding Uthman for which I see no from this matter if he goes out for it, or if he sees that he is going out for the sake of truth. So he went to Muhammad ibn Talha and said to him, O Muhammad, what is your involvement in this? He said, I dislike asking men about my father. It is shameful for me. It is not befitting for me to ask, meaning, my father is in a battle, and I am leaving my mother and children to be killed. Talha ibn Ubaydullah was also killed by a stray arrow, and the correct account is that it was a stray arrow, without going into further detail here. So, these two great men died in the first moments of the battle in this manner. The fighting then concentrated around Aisha's camel. May God be pleased with her. She was in a howdah on the camel, and the howdah was like a hedgehog's quills because of the sheer number of arrows and spears. The people of Basra fought fiercely to prevent anyone from reaching Aisha, the mother of the believers and the beloved of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, while she was still alive. They fought valiantly, and 70 of those who had memorized the Quran were killed around her, not to mention those who were not memorizers, and even more. Ali saw that, as long as this camel was there, the conflict would not end. These people, especially the killers of Uthman, were keen to end this matter, meaning to eliminate the opposition, and the people of Basra would not leave the beloved of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, alone. So, as you say, he sent a special detachment of Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, her brother, and Abdullah ibn Waqar al-Quzay, who went on a special mission. They kidnapped him, hamstrung the camel, and took Aisha in a swift operation, bringing her into the house of Abdullah bin Budayl bin Waqar al-Quzay. With this, the litter fell, and he was relieved. So, they secured Aisha's safety. Then, Ali called out, do not finish off the wounded, and I will follow the fugitive. Do not storm his house. Whoever enters his house and lays down his weapon is safe. This is proof of the sincerity of intention. We want to reconcile, not destroy. This is the jurisprudence of Muslims in fighting amongst themselves. The battle is over. Do not pursue any of the Muslims. Okay, Professor Muhammad, what I said previously regarding Uthman, that I did not defend Uthman, so I feel regret is not what it is. Look for an authentic narration that clarifies its meaning. It is not known, but scholars have interpreted this word in one of two ways. A first meaning is that we were lenient with these rebels. We should have finished it off. We should not have responded to our master. The second meaning is that there may have been some issues or disagreements between Talha and Uthman upon which this was based. The people of the sedition went out, and he saw that he was guilty of this, so he wanted to atone for it. It's like when there's a coup or any injustice, and some people speak the truth, but their words are used for evil, so he deeply regrets this. Yes, well, I just want to remind people that we raised the question of how our Master Ali could enter two major battles and not avenge the killing of Uthman. Yes, we finished the Battle of the Camel. We finished the Battle of the Camel. Let's continue. When we finished the Battle of the Camel, an important change happened. Let me mention one important change. Since we're being brief, this change is that Ali discovered the intensity of the people of Kufr's love for him and their fierce fighting alongside him. Ali, when he went out, only had 700 men from Medina with him. As I told you, some of the companions hesitated to join him. They saw that this matter involved bloodshed among Muslims, a civil war. They hesitated to join him, even though he wasn't forcing or compelling people to go out with him. He was a caliph, by the way. If he had ordered, he should be obeyed, but he who did not want to fight with him was not obligated to do so. So, our Master Ali, while on the road, meaning on the road to Basra, sent a message to the people of Kufr to rally them. Kufr had been governed by Abu Musa al-Ash'ari. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari did indeed secure this allegiance of the people of Kufr to Ali, but his opinion was that this fighting was a conflict of sedition and that no one should participate in it. Abu Musa discouraged the people of Kufr, so they did not rise up, and Master Ammar ibn Yasir was one of the companions who completely agreed with our Master Ali and believed that this was the truth. So, our Master Ammar went to Kufr and addressed its people, rallying them to Ali's cause. And look at the companions. They were still fighting. He was saying, by God, I know that she is his wife in this world and the hereafter, but God has tested you with her to see whether you will obey him or obey her, even while urging the army to mobilize. He was still respecting the status of the mother of the believers, Aisha, and that she was his wife in this world and the hereafter. The next thing I know, 7,000 men left Kufr and joined Ali's army and fought alongside him. When Aisha was taken to the house of Abdullah ibn Budayl ibn Waqar al-Quzi, Ammar ibn Yasir came to her and spoke to her from behind a curtain. He said, O mother of the believers, how far this is from the covenant that was made with you, meaning, what you have done contradicts what is stated in the Holy Quran, the covenant of God, referring to his saying, and abide in your houses. She replied, Abu al-Laksan, meaning Ammar. He said, yes. She said, you are always a speaker of truth, meaning, I always know you to be a speaker of truth. He said, praise be to God who has spoken through your tongue. I am now speaking to.
نيجي نقول بقى هنا عائشة ما الذي أخرجها هذا المخرج؟ الإصلاح بين الناس. طيب خد عندك يا سيدي علم كان عند عائشة.
هات يا سيدي.
عائشة وهي ماشية من مكة إلى البصرة.
You about the companions while they are fighting. Now, let's talk about what prompted Aisha to take this step to reconcile the people. Here's some knowledge Aisha possessed. Yes, Aisha, while traveling from Mecca to Basra, of course, they were traveling to Basra because Medina had supporters of Uthman, and that's why it was acceptable. They go to Syria, and they don't go to Egypt unless they pass through Medina. So, naturally, they go to Basra. She is walking towards Basra, in a place like this in the waters of Bani Amr, meaning in the Bani Amr region. Sam heard dogs barking at her, so she said, what water is this? Where are we? So she was told this answer. She said, I think I will return. I will return like this. They said to her, how can you return, brother? You will come forward, and God will make peace between people through you. She said, the messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, said, which of you is the owner of the well-trained camel? The dogs of the desert will bark at her. Many creatures will be killed around her, and she will be saved after she almost perished. O God, may God bless him and grant him peace. What is this situation? It was a dangerous situation, and that's why she thought about returning. So, Sheikh Murad, what do you think, we Muslims, which was better for Aisha to return, thus contradicting the Prophet's words and invalidating his prophecy, or for Aisha to stand firm, thus proving her own error and confirming the Prophet's prophethood? But how did Aisha think about this? When you try to analyze how Aisha acted, she acted according to her own judgment, fulfilling God's decree. It seems most likely that she foresaw that many people would be killed around her, and that this was retribution for the killing of Uthman. The hadith does and condemn her actions. It predicts what would happen. The text doesn't imply that she was wrong to go out and reconcile people. Almighty said, and if two factions among the believers should fight, then make peace between them. But if one oppresses the other, then fight against the one that oppresses. And there is life for you in legal retribution. So, fighting and killing might sometimes be in the best interest of the community. That's how she acted, making her judgment. She didn't know what the killing would entail in the face of Ali, may God be pleased with him. So, see how people's minds work in carrying out God's will. Now, let's look at the other side. A prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, told Ali that there would be a matter between him and Aisha. Ali said, me, O messenger of God. He said, yes. He said, if I die, meaning there will be problems. You know, when someone tells you, you are entering into a fight with one of God's righteous saints, it's a very difficult and terrible thing. So the Prophet said, no, but be gentle with her and inform her of what is best for her. O God, peace and blessings be upon him. So the incident of the fitna was surrounded by the words of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, which clarified matters. Yes, so here we have finished with the battle of the camel, and Lady Aisha did not participate in political affairs after that. But here two important changes occurred. The first change is, as I told you, the people of Kufr saw Ali's strength with him in the fighting, and that they listened to him, obedient, not reluctant, meaning like the people of Medina. And the second matter is your question, which is why did our master Ali take Kufr as his capital? Yes, this is the first answer. The first answer and the second answer is that if you were in our master Ali's place in Medina and Muawiyah might expand, and he was independent in the matter of Syria, then if Muawiyah expanded, which would be closer to him, Medina or Iraq, or rather, if Muawiyah expands. Now, the caliph currently in Medina, the province of Syria, will not give him its allegiance, nor will it give him its zakat. So, consequently, the funds in Medina will be depleted, and if he expands further into Iraq, he will also lose the funds of Iraq, and Muawiyah might go to Iraq, thus widening the circle of rebellion or the circle of those refusing to pledge allegiance. Therefore, Ali said that he would reside in Kufr, anticipating an uprising from the people of Syria. This is the reason that made him change the capital and make his base in Kufr. Yes, a political, military, and economic reason. Okay, that's the end of the picture. Now let's look at it from Muawiyah's point of view. I will try to show you how Muawiyah saw the situation from the very beginning. Muawiyah was a man who was sitting in Syria, the governor appointed by Uthman ibn Affan. Now, I will tell you the chain of events as Muawiyah saw it. People came out from Iraq and people came out from Egypt, entered Medina and besieged it. The caliph was prevented from praying and even from drinking water. They stormed his house and killed him, and no one intervened. After they stormed his house, they installed Ali ibn Abi Talib. Their intention was to do good. The first thing Ali ibn Abi Talib did was dismiss Uthman's governors from the provinces. A message reached Muawiyah informing him of this. Then, when some of the companions went out to help him kill Uthman's murderers, he marched against them with an army that included Uthman's killers. He fought them and defeated them, killing Zubair and Talha. The mother of the believers was nearly killed. On another front, a message arrived carried by Nu'man ibn Bashir from Muawiyah's sister. Who was Muawiyah's sister? Muawiyah's sister, the mother of the believers, Habiba Ramla bint Abi Sufyan. She sent him a message detailing how Uthman was killed. She also had with her the shirt in which Uthman was killed, the hair that had been plucked from Uthman's beard, and a mandate from Uthman's household authorizing Muawiyah to exact retribution for him. These matters reached him while he was in Jerusalem, in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Naturally, the people of Syria were upset by what had happened. When this message arrived, containing the blood of Uthman, and some accounts add that it also contained the severed fingers of Uthman's wife, Yalar bint al-Farafisr, who was killed while defending Uthman, he hung the shirt in the mosque. This increased the controversy and the people's agitation. Nu'man ibn Bashir carried this message. In which mosque was the shirt hung? Al-Aqsa Mosque. Yes, in Jerusalem at that time. Then, and this is the most important point, there are the hadiths narrated about the virtues of Syria. The hadiths narrated about Uthman being a rightful caliph, and the hadiths narrated about the hypocrites killing Uthman. These hadiths confirm to Muawiyah that he and the people of Syria were on the right path. For example, we hear hadiths from Ashar, Nu'man ibn Bashir, Abdullah ibn Hawal al-Asadi, Kab ibn Murrah, and a hadith that Muawiyah himself heard. What do these hadiths say? They say whoever is saved from three things is saved: my death, the Antichrist, and the killing of a caliph who gives the truth and is patient with it. Our master Uthman. Who is our master Uthman? There will be a tribulation in which this veiled one will be killed. So if it is Uthman, and the hypocrites want you to depose him, do not depose him. If God wills to clothe you in a garment, and the hypocrites want you to do good, do not depose him. The hypocrites, the hadith of Abu Hurairah, when he said, there will be a tribulation in which this veiled one will be killed, he said, what do you command us, O Messenger of God? He said, follow the trustworthy one and his companions, referring to Uthman among his companions, as Muawiyah understands it. Muawiyah is the one who is related to Uthman, meaning, my intention is good, except that faith, when tribulations occur. In Syria was indeed the furthest place from participating in the killing of Uthman, all right. And the hadith of Abdullah bin Hawal al-Asadi, he said, O Messenger of God, the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, said, there will be armies gathered, an army in Syria, an army in Iraq, and an army in Yemen. Abdullah bin Hawala said, O Messenger of God, is it better for me? He said, go to Syria, for it is the best of God's earth, and he chooses for it the best of his creation. So, how do you understand the scenes and the hadiths? Understand that this trustworthy one, who is Uthman, and his companions, who are the people of Sham, who are demanding retribution for him, and who never participated in the strife. And what does it mean except that when strife occurs and then the Prophet chose Sham for some of his companions? What does all this indicate? The belief that Muawiyah and his followers, including the people of Syria, held that they were on the side of truth in this conflict stemmed from the fact that when you hear hadiths, you have no doubt. Therefore, Muawiyah mentioned that he heard this hadith from the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, follow the trustworthy one and his companions. Then Abdullah ibn Halar al-Azdi, who was in Syria, said he heard a hadith from Aisha. This Abdullah claims to have heard it from Aisha and sent word to her to write the hadith down, which she did. So, from Muawiyah's perspective, he believed he was on the side of truth and that what Ali was doing at the very least was not clear. He was keen to dismiss Uthman's governors and to empower those who had participated in the conflict, even though they were commanders in his army and governors. For example, he appointed Muhammad ibn Abi Hudhayfar, who incited against Uthman, as governor of Egypt. Later, when he appointed Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubaydar, he was dissatisfied with the calm and leniency Qais ibn Sa'd ibn Ubaydar showed towards Uthman's supporters in Egypt, so he dismissed him and appointed al-Ashtar al-Nakhi, one of the prominent figures. The fitna civil strife, and Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr was the commander of the men at the Battle of the Camel, and al-Ashtar al-Nakhi was one of the commanders of Ali's army. So, the whole scene is very confusing. That's why I'm saying that if someone forgets who Ali was, they might support Muawiyah's position. May God be pleased with him. Yes, our mother Ramla's letter to Muawiyah in Syria was before the Battle of the Camel, not after. Before. Yes, I mean, she sent it before. Okay. So now it's over. Look how the people of Syria see it now. Our master, Ali, may God be pleased with him, sent to Muawiyah to pledge allegiance and join what the people had joined. Now, Iraq has stabilized and pledged allegiance to our master Ali. So, our master Muawiyah was saying, hand over the killers of Uthman to me, and I will pledge allegiance to him. Okay. Our master Muawiyah didn't have a problem with the one pledging allegiance. No, he didn't have a problem. It was Abu Muslim al-Qarlani who came to him and said, "Are you disputing with Ali, or are you better than him?" Muawiyah replied, "By God, I know that Ali is better than me, but don't you know that Uthman was killed unjustly? Let him hand over his killers to me, and I pledge allegiance to him. I enter into the pledge of allegiance." Okay, they returned with this message to Ali, saying he should pledge allegiance first, then settle the dispute with them. This is because, in the end, the unity of the Islamic State and I, as Muawiyah, if I were to leave Syria and be removed from it and be stripped of my family, my power, and my strength, how would I think from his perspective? Our master Ali says that he is capable of taking retribution from the killers of Uthman, and he is essentially harboring them and empowering them in positions of authority. Well, I, Muawiyah, if I were to give up my army and my power, I would not be safe. I would not be safe. I mean, if he is now unable to take retribution or unwilling to take retribution while I am present with my power and strength, what would the situation be if Syria were to be taken over by one of the killers of Uthman? He would destroy us all. Therefore, Ali, may God be pleased with him, prepared an army to go to Syria. Yes, indeed. And here Muawiyah prepared the army of Syria. And this is the Battle of Siffin, the second major battle in which the Muslims fought. This was in the year 37 AH. Of course, the Battle of Siffin, Sheikh, the number of armies involved was at least 50,000 with Ali and 600,000 with Muawiyah. Look, the Muslims at that time were the world's superpower. Imagine the American army, now divided into two and fighting each other. I mean, this is the essence of world power now. Of course, they continued for months with minor skirmishes. From Dhu al-Hajr 36 AH until Safar 37 AH. Then, the fighting broke out. Each side believed it was in the right and each had evidence and proofs to prove that it was right. Ali was a man to whom the nation had pledged allegiance, except for one group in Syria who refused to accept him. This group was rebellious and had to be fought. And Muawiyah, as I explained a little while ago, had his position. The fighting broke out. It was a huge, fierce battle. Where did it take place? It was in Sifin, a little southwest of Raqqa. Or where is Raqqa, the Syrian city now? It's a little southwest of it. So, the fighting took place. Okay, Sheikh, look, I'm telling you the summary. The Muslim forces, the forces that conquered Persia and the forces that conquered Rome are fighting each other now. Yes, you can imagine how fierce, violent, and massive the battle was. And this battle, the decisive moment, of course, many perished in it. The decisive moment was when Amr was killed. He was killed in the battle. The rebellious faction killed him. Of course, as soon as Amr was killed, the news spread. Amr was killed. Amr was killed. As I told you, I think in the last episode or the one before it, that Amr was killed by the rebellious faction, a hadith that will not be revealed or explained until Amr is actually killed. So Amr ibn al-As entered upon Muawiyah, and he was saying, "To God we belong, and to him we shall return." Muawiyah said to him, "What's wrong?" He said, "He was killed." Amr, "What's the problem? Everyone kills." I mean, there were companions who were killed in the Battle of Siffin. At least 25 companions were present. It is proven by a sound narration that companions were present, including 4 Badr warriors who were on Ali's side. There were 14 companions on Ali's side and 7 on Muawiyah's side. He said, Amr was killed. So what? What did our master think? He didn't know the hadith. He said, "I heard the messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, say, Amr will be killed by the rebellious group." So here, what happened to the group of psychologists? What do they call it? Cognitive dissonance or cognitive consistency is a well-known theory that states that if you have a belief or conviction, and an event occurs that contradicts that conviction, the mind must reinterpret the event to align with that conviction, or change the conviction to align with the event, so that the person can live. This is what is called cognitive consistency or the theory of cognitive dissonance. Now, take Muawiyah. We've been arguing back and forth for 2 years, and he has accumulated positions, and as I told you, he has had sayings, so his mind immediately sprang to life. He is, of course, one of the most cunning politicians and one of the most cunning Arabs. He said, "We did not kill him, but he who brought him out killed him. He who threw him among our spears killed." The people in the midst of war absorbed it immediately because this is the atmosphere of war. Our master Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As was present in Muawiyah's camp, but he doesn't fight. He believes we should refrain from fighting. However, our master Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As was once complained to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, about his father, Amr ibn al-As. The Prophet told Abdullah to obey his father as long as he lives. So he joined them in the camp, fulfilling the Prophet's command, but of course he doesn't fight. Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As wasn't convinced by this interpretation. He kept saying to Amr ibn al-As, he only said that the rebellious group will kill him. Muawiyah grew tired of this insistence and said to him, "Are you not good enough for us? Are you not good enough for us? Amr, why are you with us?" He replied, I dislike fighting, but the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, instructed me, obey your father as long as you live, so I am with you and I will not fight. Well, Amr ibn al-As narrated another hadith. Look at the interpretation regarding Amr ibn Yasir. He said, his killer and the one who plunders him will be in hellfire. This is a hadith of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. His killer and the one who plunders him will be in hellfire. This refers to the one who kills Amr and steals his weapons and belongings. This is where this came in. The wording of the hadith, along with the second hadith, states that the rebellious group will kill him. The blame related to this falls upon the direct killer, not the group itself. This is what Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As was responding to when he said, the entire group will kill him. The group doesn't mean all of us, of course. At this moment, the people of Iraq realized they were on the right path. and the position of the people of Syria was weakened, despite what we've already said. So, with this crisis, this interpretation, and this situation, the people of Syria proposed arbitration, recourse to negotiations. In modern terms, they would send a message to Ali, saying they would go to arbitration. They raised a copy of the Quran not on spears, but a copy, and sent a message. I mean, the verse Lori B2 thought, I've forgotten the verse now. There's a crisis, and when you want to cite something, it slips away. Anyway, when this came, Ali said, yes, I am more deserving of that, meaning more deserving of going to arbitration, and he accepted arbitration. So, what does arbitration mean? He stopped. The fighting ended with neither side victorious nor defeated, and they considered the idea of negotiating. We are now in the month of Safar.
يستدعيان من أرادوا ويلتقوا في مكان بين الشام والعراق والحجاز في زمن لا يتأخر عن شهر رمضان. تمام يعني بعد احنا دلوقتي في شهر صفر.
Second month of the Hijrah, they made what we now call a framework agreement. They said that Muawiyah would choose an arbitrator, and Ali would choose an arbitrator. These two arbitrators would summon whomever they wished and meet in a place between Syria, Iraq, and the Hijaz no later than the month of Ramadan. So, after we are now in the month of Safar, which is the second month, Ramadan is the 9th month, meaning the maximum period is 9 months. Whatever they decide on these matters will be binding on both sides. And with this, the Battle of Siffin ended. But when the Battle of Siffin ended, we would face another crisis, the division of Ali's army and the emergence of the Kharijites. Let's leave that for later. But to continue with the sedition, yes, the two arbitrators met in Dumat al-Jandal, a place indeed in the middle. Of course, there is now a very famous narration, but this narration, with the efforts of researchers and hadith scholars, has been proven weak. What does the famous narration say? It says that Amr ibn al-As tricked Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, who was the arbitrator, meaning Amr al-Hakam, who was on Muawiyah's side, tricked Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, who was on Ali's side. He told him, what are we going to do? We are going to remove both Ali and Muawiyah. He said, okay. And Abu Musa al-Ash'ari went out to announce that he had removed Ali from the caliphate, just as he removes his ring. So, Amr was supposed to say, and I will remove Muawiyah. Then Muawiyah opposite. What happened in the arbitration is that we are now talking about the position of Ali very clearly. As follows, Ali sees that he is the legitimate caliph by the allegiance of the Muhajirin and Ansar, by the establishment of the matter for him in the most important cities except Egypt, except the Levant. So, therefore he is the one most deserving of allegiance. And then Muawiyah comes to him. Muawiyah sees what? Muawiyah saw that he was in grave danger, that the killers of Uthman would infiltrate the positions, and that if he relinquished his rule in Syria, then the issue of Uthman would be over, and the danger to Muawiyah would also be present. Therefore, Ali's purpose was to establish him in the caliphate, and Muawiyah's purpose was to establish him in the governorship, or to establish him in the caliphate, because during those 7 months the Kharijite group emerged and became not even committed to Ali's opinion and declared Ali's an infidel. So when they declared Ali an infidel, then who did they declare an infidel? Muawiyah also means that Muawiyah does not have a danger to his life and a danger to all of Uthman's corps. What is he doing? Two arbitrators thought of removing both of them from the caliphate. But who can assume the caliphate? None of the elders were present except for Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas. He was one of the 6 who had abstained from fighting from the beginning and refused even to attend the arbitration. Abdullah ibn Umar was present but had also abstained from fighting. Abdullah ibn Umar refused to be appointed caliph. In reality, the arbitration concluded with Ali being declared caliph and the oath of allegiance to him being given. Even Amr ibn al-As asked Abu Musa
فطالما استغنى أمر الله عنكما. فهنا وقع الخلاف بين
Ashari,
معاوية وبين
where
عمر
do you
بن
place me and Muawiyah? He replied, if he needs your help, then you are the one who can help me. But if he doesn't need you, then God's command has already been fulfilled. This is where the disagreement between Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-As arose, because the latter was unable to gain anything. However, what actually happened was that the situation stabilized for Muawiyah. The people were divided over Ali and Muawiyah's skillful policies and his ability to win people over with money and other means led to more people joining Muawiyah during those 7 months. Since there was no independent, neutral force capable of enforcing the arbitration's outcome, Muawiyah rejected the arbitration's result, and the situation remained as it was. That's why Abu Musa al-Ashari says that the emirate didn't pass through it and the king didn't prevail. So, this remained and the situation remained as it was. Then things started to happen, that is, at that time, Muawiyah began for the first time to see that he was more deserving of the caliphate. At that moment, the moment after Siffin and after the arbitration, yes, and disputes began to arise over the provinces, over Egypt, over Basra, over Yemen, and between them, I mean, so that we don't leave out a detail without mentioning it. Perhaps the verse that was written, have you not seen those who were given a portion of the scripture, who are invited to the book of Allah to judge between them? Then a party of them take up their positions and are satisfied. When our master Ali assumed the caliphate, why was the first thing he did to dismiss the governors? This was due to pressure from the rebels. Look here, one of the things on which opinions differ is that it aligns with Ali's policy of appeasement, reassurance, and containment. Yes, so that those around him wouldn't become more agitated, he took action. Yes, if we read it with the eyes of someone who does and know Ali, we would say that he led a successful coup against Uthman. And now he is removing the old system, raised a question that scholars naturally paused to consider. They were surprised and asked why, for example, didn't Ali write a secret message to Muawiyah, telling him to go out with his army while they stayed inside to eliminate these criminals and stabilize the state. Of course, after 1,400 years we might suggest something, I don't know, but one might want to solve the problem. But, Professor Muhammad, if we believe that these companions were the purest of heart and the most intelligent of mind, then surely there's no solution we could have discovered now. The problem is that we get so engrossed in the issue that we want to solve it, even though it's already over. So I think, and God knows best, that succeeded in presenting and sequencing the ideas, and the concept has been conveyed perfectly, leaving no room for doubt. Young people, not even remotely close to this point. We opened the parenthesis, and whoever wants to close it, you can continue reading and delve deeper without allowing anything to enter. If we wanted to close this parenthesis or the question we opened in this episode, because time has run out, Professor Muhammad, there is a lesson we can also take from all these events, because of course, after that, Ali, may God be pleased with him, was killed, and of course, we can come to that when we talk about the misguided sects, God willing. But now, if you want to summarize what happened, the position of the Sunnis is that the companions, may God be pleased with them, are worthy of all good, and that they should have good faith in all of them. So, the one who strives and is correct receives 2 rewards, and that is Ali, may God be pleased with him. And the one who strives and is mistaken and makes an interpretation is forgiven, and that is the group of Muawiyah, may God be pleased with him. Both of them wanted good, and the disagreement between them was not a disagreement over positions or desires, but rather they were all striving to support the truth. Yes, including our mother Aisha, may God be pleased with her, Talha, and Zubair. May God be pleased with them all. Professor Muhammad, may God reward you and be good to you. My brothers, don't forget to spread these episodes and this goodness everywhere. Until we meet in the next episode of the 100 Questions in History series, may you remain in God's care. Until we meet again to watch more programs about Islamic history and to learn about its events, victories, defeats, leaders, scholars, events, secrets, governance, politics, wars, and battles, all you have to do is follow our history channel on YouTube, our history from the farthest point in the past to the farthest point in the future.